On today's show, I'm going to talk about some of the upgrades I made to my Ender 3. Hey, welcome to The First Layer. My name is Richard Cleveland. I'm your host here 3 times a week, where we explore the world of 3D printing. Now, on today's show, I'm going to be talking about my Ender 3. As many of you know that have watched the show for any length of time, I got this Ender 3 a few months ago. I did a build of an Ender 3 here at Spool 3D a while ago, and I really wanted to get one for myself. So I did that, and there's a couple of things that I've noticed with this machine. By no means do I dislike this machine. This is not the Pro. This is the straight Ender 3. But I had to make some small modifications. So let's talk about those in detail. So first and foremost, let's go to the desktop cam, where you'll be able to see a few things here on the camera as I just rotate this around. You can see I've had to put a scoop onto the top of the control box. And the reason for that is because there's a fan underneath there that blows straight up. And that does two things to the heated bed. One, as you can see, as the heated bed comes over, as it makes its way to the back corner, it will blow cold air up on top or up to the bottom of that heated bed, making this zone right here quite cold. So you could experience curling of your 3D print. Now, the other reason is because if you have a failed print and you get spaghetti, what can happen is that spaghetti can fall down inside that fan and make just a heck of a mess. So that was the first thing that I did. As soon as I opened the box, I printed one of these off, and I won't go back because it is a great help. Now, the fan that is in here, for anybody that doesn't know, the fan is connected to a header that is also connected to the part cooling fan, which you can see right here. This is the part cooling fan. So when this one comes on, this fan also comes on. So usually they're going to kick in at about layer 2. Now, a couple of other things that I've done to mine is I put a case on the back of the LCD monitor. And the reason that I did that was because every time I grabbed the back of the LCD monitor, I would hit one of these soldered connections and poke myself in the finger. So this is just good insurance. You can download this off of Thingiverse. Everything I'm showing you today that's been a printed part can be done or can be printed off from Thingiverse. So they're all free prints. Now, if we go back to my wide shot, this is a filament guide. Now, again, this can be downloaded from Thingiverse. The reason I put this on was because what happens without this, you can see how close the filament gets to your lead screw back here. And if it gets too close to this lead screw, it can cause wearing and all kinds of nasty, bad stuff, and you could ruin a print because this machine doesn't have a filament out detection. As far as other prints go, that's pretty much all I've done, except for on the back of the machine. Maybe we can use the overhead here up in the back corner. You might be able to see it, maybe. Let me just tilt it backwards and get that roll off there. There we go. So you can see here, I've printed a bearing block and just attached it with a couple of M3 by 10 millimeter screws and a couple of hammer nuts. And that helps to keep this lead screw perfectly aligned. So that's something that I would recommend as well. And that's also going to help with the overall print that you're doing. Now, staying with this overhead cam, you can see I've got an Ender 3 board here in my hand. And there's something missing off this Ender 3 board, and that's the heatsink right here. My Ender 3 blew up about 3 or 4 days ago. We were printing with it, and what had happened was the MOSFET here on the board for the heated bed actually fried, and we could see evidence of that right here on the back. It may not be coming out very clear on camera, but this one pad here, you can see where there's been burning. So it had actually burned out. Now, some people will say that's because of the TL smoothers that are on, that I've added to the board. Yes, I have added TL smoothers to this machine. I added it on the X, Y, and Z motors. I did have one on the print, the extruder motor, and I took it off because it really didn't serve any purpose. But the ones on the X, Y, and Z have improved my print significantly, as well as that little straining up at the top of the Z axis is also improved. Now, in order for the machine not to have the same problem that we just experienced, and let me see if I can move this out of the way a little bit so you guys can get a clearer look at this. What I did was I added an external MOSFET. So what this does is essentially it's taking the signal off of the power supply, routing it into this MOSFET, and then pulling power directly from the power supply. This little communication cable right here is there to tell what temperature it should go to, and so on and so forth. So this is your little control line, which goes back onto the board. Now, the reason I added this was so that in the future, I don't have this issue, because these boards are about $49 Canadian, I think. And, you know, they're not the greatest boards. Like, this is quite wiggly. That's your power connection, and it is soldered very, very poorly to this board. And their QC, although you have a QC sticker here on the back, the QC is not great because all of these pins that you see here should have all been clipped off or clipped shorter than they are, because they're quite sharp because they're still the original pins. So that was some of the things I did to my Ender 3. And now let's go ahead and have a look on Thingiverse where we actually went and got these. So you guys will be able to see exactly where we got them. Ender 3 Z-stop bearing block. This is a remix of the original. It's branded with Ender 3 right there. Mine has the same branding. I'm not sure why they've got these two screws in here, but I didn't put them into mine, and mine seems to be working just fine. But this is, I would say this is probably an essential piece you may want to put onto your Ender 3. And following that, we have this 2020 Ender 3 filament guide, which I showed you earlier. And it comes in a couple of different configurations. So you have a couple of different arms. You've got the arm which I'm using now. You can see that it's got this side cut into it. And that makes it easy for loading your filament through. This is the piece that plugs right into the end of the 2020 extrusion. Here's an alternate arm that you can use, and there is finally another arm that has no hole in it as well. Here is the fan guard, which I'm using. I like this because it kind of looks kind of hot rodish. So I put mine in purple because I had some purple lying around, just like we have in the background here. And I really liked the fan duct idea. It was the first thing that I printed, as I said. So you can go ahead and find these, again, all on Thingiverse. And there's that back cover. Again, what this does is it just allows you to cover up the board so you don't accidentally short something out. Now that we've seen all the upgrades that I've made, now I do have a few additional things I'm going to be doing to the Ender. I am going to be putting a Raspberry Pi camera on here, which will clip right to the X-axis motor cover right here. I do have stepper dampeners on here because this is quite a loud machine. I will be replacing the stock power supply as well with a Meanwell power supply. And of course, I got the version with the bed that actually you can take off. And I think eventually I'm going to replace that with a magnetic bed just to see how it works. And that is pretty much it in a nutshell. So if you've got an Ender 3 or you're just new to doing an Ender 3, here's some ideas for you for efficient upgrades, things that really work. So go check them out. We'll have all the links down in the description below for you to go check out all the upgrades that I've made. I'll leave some links there to the TL smoothers as well. And you'll be able to go and find those on the interwebs. I don't get any affiliates. I don't have any affiliates set up. So, feel free to buy your TL smoothers from whatever source you find best. Now, with that said, I'm going to thank some people. And I want to first start by thanking Spool 3D. Spool 3D gives us this wonderful space to use each and every week. And they've got everything that you need, from printers to accessories and parts, as well as filaments. So go check them out today at spool3d.ca. Print it right, print it with Spool 3D. I want to thank my great staff, starting with the lovely Jess Corniching, who's behind the controls today. There she is. The always awesome Frank Awesome, and our newest member of the team, Brian Baker. Brian and I work a lot together behind the scenes to, polish the show a little bit more for you. I want to thank all of my Patreons for all of their support. Without their support, we couldn't have this lovely studio that we have, and we wouldn't be able to do the show and bring it to you 3 times a week. So thank you very much. If you want to become a supporter of the show and sign up to Patreon, you can do so by going to patreon.com/thefirstlayer. There you'll find many different levels that you can get involved in. We are working very hard to get Patreon up to snuff. Of course, it has been a bit of a challenge for me, but we are doing our best. Now, if you're not interested in a monthly commitment like Patreon, you can always just go and buy us a coffee. Everybody here in the studio loves coffee. Jess, myself, Frank, and Brian, and even some of the other guys that come in and hang around like coffee too. So you can go to buymeacoffee.com/thefirstlayer and buy any one of us a coffee. Who else do I want to thank today? I think, I missed one person, my lovely wife, who always bakes us goodies here at the studio. So now, don't forget, if you got something useful out of today's show, to subscribe, hit that bell notification button so you get notified every time that we do a brand new episode. Share this video with your friends if you found it useful. And until next time, my friends, remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print. See you next time.